RWBY Volume 3, Episode 10, Battle of Beacon. Now, of course, this is the episode I think we've all pretty much been waiting for since, 2 weeks ago, and it's like we knew what was happening. There was no way to possibly work around this being a crazy action-based episode, and it certainly was. We got to see a ton of characters. We got to see pretty much every single team come back from the tournament from this volume, so that I thought was pretty cool. We saw most of them at least, and that was nice. I thought it was pretty enjoyable getting to see those characters. We didn't get to see too much out of each, out of the characters we haven't seen fight too much. We got our two big sword slashes from Yatsuhashi and Saturn, I believe. I always mix up Saturn and Neptune. I can never remember which is which, but I believe it's Saturn. So that was a pretty cool moment. We actually got to see them do at least one little thing that was cool. Just seeing all the characters together is pretty sweet. Seeing all the different designs, because we don't really have that very often. We'll normally have, at most, we'll get to see Team RWBY and Team Juniper standing together, and it's like, these are, our cool color schemes we get to see. But it was nice having, even though it was just a superfluous, I couldn't get that word out, even though it was that type of scene, it was really awesome seeing all these characters come back, especially the very first team that was in episode 1, because they disappeared after they lost against Team RWBY. They were pretty much gone, and it was nice seeing them come back, especially the girl with the light hair who has the martial arts moves and stuff. I just really love her design as a character, so I really like getting to see her again. But it was fun. We got to see a couple of moves. We didn't, like I said, we didn't get to see too much stuff like I was hoping for. I really thought for sure, before everyone kind of dropped down and everything, when the Nevermore was coming down, I thought Jean was going to use his semblance. I was like, come on, let's see that semblance work. And I thought for sure it would be the Nevermore would be crashing down on Pyrrha, and his semblance would go off. And, based on what we saw in Volume 1 when he was going up against Cardin, when he was about to, punch him, and basically, it was kind of like an explosive, form of aura, I have to assume his semblance is basically, the strongest, shield that there is, because aura in itself is as he put it, it's like a force field. So I would have to assume his is, amplified beyond other people's. His semblance almost makes him super strong, he has impenetrable strength or skin or something like that. And that's what I was hoping we'd get to see, but unfortunately that didn't happen. It was just it landed and everyone got sent back. But it was a cool action scene. I was surprised that we got to see the locker callback stuff from Volume 1. I didn't expect that at all. And I remember, I think it was in the last episode before the World of Remnant one, someone mentioned RWBY having to do that when she was going up against Mercury. So it was cool that we got to see that, and all these lockers come crashing down on the Nevermore. RWBY used it again at the end of the episode when she landed on Neo and Roman's ship. So I'm looking forward to that, to see RWBY go up against Neo. I'm very curious how that's going to play out. But that was really cool to see that a ton of times. Something that I was really glad we got to see finally was Ironwood fight. And it was really cool finally getting to see him use that metal arm. I knew from the beginning, I was like, he has a white glove for no good reason. He has a robot arm under there, and I was right. And it was really sweet. And his gun, they didn't show it nearly enough to me, but the design on his gun was super cool. And it was it made me think of a little bit of Barry from the Resident Evil games. He always has this giant magnum. That's always his signature weapon, is this just big freaking magnum gun. And that's what I thought of when I was watching this episode, Ironwood's gun. It's not as big, and of course it doesn't actually look like a magnum, but it looked really cool. It had a great design on it. It had some curvy etching on the side as well. I didn't really look at it too much because I was just enjoying the episode. But it was cool. It was nice to see him go up against one Grimm on his own, which was really cool. Also, 2 new Grimm in this. We got to see Griffins, which were really cool, and we got to see, of course, at the end, we got a dragon, which I thought was awesome, and it's just, I guess it's just kind of been laying dormant, and there hasn't been enough chaos around it, and I'm curious if there's going to be a story element behind it where maybe the adults knew that this was there, and I assume they did, because it was, I want to say it was either Ozpin or Goodwitch, but one of them was like, oh no, because they knew exactly what was happening when everything started to shake. So they knew this thing was there, and I guess it's one of those weird things where it's we have to avoid panic so we don't say anything about it. And it makes sense because, that worked. But of course, with all this chaos going around, this giant a dragon comes out, and it was the coolest thing. At first, I thought it was just going to be a flat-out dinosaur, to be totally honest. I thought it was just going to bust out, and we were going to have a T-Rex coming out of, like, a volcano, basically. But I love the fact that it was, like, a flying... yeah, they call it dragon, but because of the red, I definitely think bat more than I do dragon. But in the end credits, it's called a Grimm dragon. And I can't wait to see how the heck they take this thing down. And with all the characters split up the way that they are, I mean, we still have our giant team that's still together, which is like 3 or 4 different teams. It's Team Juniper, Sun, and well, Coffee's on there, and then the other team from the first episode. So we still have 4 full teams on that ship. So they'll probably end up fighting it, because everyone else is kind of split up into either pairs or all alone. We have Oobleck with the other guy, I never remember his name, but, you know, that duo, they come back and they're fighting at the end. I'm sure they'll be fine. So we have them fighting against all the Griffins. We have, finally, and I cannot wait for next week, we're going to have Blake versus Adam. I just can't wait to see it. I've been talking about that forever, so I won't even bother wasting more time on it. I just can't wait to see it, so I'm looking forward to that. Weiss should probably be fine, because she went to go help more, like, the soldiers and stuff, so I'm sure she'll be fine. I'm sure something will come of that, but I don't think she'll have too much to, you know, really deal with. And then we have RWBY, of course, going up against Neo, and possibly Roman, depending on how that plays out. And we still don't really know what's happening with Team Juniper, because they, well, I guess, yeah, they all landed, so we didn't, I forgot where the other teams went. I don't think they even showed it. They just showed kind of Team Juniper, and they stopped because Pyrrha went up to Ozpin. And I don't know if her plan is to say, you know, do the transition right now, if that would even be possible in such a, you know, short amount of time. But it seemed like that's why she stopped. Like, I could stop this if we just do this right now. And I feel like that's what her plan is. Like, there's, you know, so much chaos. If I can just, you know, take her power right now, even if it changes me, it'll help save lives. And, you know, they did a lot really well in this episode to show how defenseless a lot of the people are in the series. Because, of course, we have our main characters, so, you know, visually, from what we see in this series, it's the type of world, seemingly, where everyone's just, like, really powerful. It's almost like Naruto, I'd say, is a great example, where, you know, all you really see are ninjas and stuff, and in RWBY, all you see are, like, hunters and huntresses, so it's like, you just see the awesome people, but this episode really had a great display of people that don't have any powers. These are defenseless people. They had the scene where a bunch of people, you know, were herded onto the ship, and they have, like, one girl that's crying, and they held on that for quite a while. And I thought that was a cool little scene. And when they were, like, going through camera angles, there's a scene of people on a roof, and there's a Grimm, like, going up that building, and I would assume, unless someone made it there, those people probably died, because there's just a Grimm, you know, crawling up the side of this building, and there's, like, just a guy jumping up and waving because they need help. So I love that we actually got to see a lot of that, because I feel like they don't show us that often enough, because, you know, just how the show is, we only really see, like, the really strong, capable characters, and not just the normal human characters who are freaked out by, you know, Grimm running all over the freaking place. So I really liked that aspect of this episode. It was a nice view of the normal world, you know, when they come in contact with the crazy evil of, you know, the Grimm, and, of course, the madness of the White Fang. So I really like that aspect. Of course, I'm really looking forward to this next episode. We don't know what happened with Yang. Zwei is also with her, which I thought was pretty cool. Like, Yang's just running down the hallway, and Zwei was just, like, in the background. So we don't know what happened with Yang. I'm sure she's fine. We may or may not get to see Raven come in. Of course, they had the line where Crow says, like, she wanted me to tell you that was basically, like, a one-time thing and it won't happen again. But who knows, with everything that's going on. She has, you know, the Grimm mask, which means, I would assume, that she's with the White Fang, or at least, you know, spying on them. So I don't know if she'll show up or what, you know, what's going to happen with her character, but looking forward to seeing what happens with Yang. As of now, if I had to pick one thing, personally, I'd have to go, of course, Adam versus Blake. I've been waiting since Volume 1, and that's just what I want to see. Like, I think I mentioned this with the last, like, main episode. I don't care if it's the whole episode, if it only focuses on Adam and Blake. That's all I need. I know it won't do that, but I would love that type of episode. I'm looking forward to seeing what we get. Tons of teams on the ground. I was hoping that we'd actually get to see the other couple of members from the random teams that never got to fight in the tournament when they showed the lineup of the singles characters, which I mentioned all those characters look like other video game characters. I think I mentioned one person looked like he was from Assassin's Creed and someone else looked like they were from something else. I can't remember their designs, but when the lockers first came down, I thought it would be them. Unfortunately, it was like all characters we'd already seen fight, and even then, even if it wasn't, it was such a quick scene. They kind of chopped the Nevermore's head off super fast. So I was like, well, okay. But we got some really great action for sure. It was great to see Ironwood fight. Um, I'm sure he survived. I mean, it was a pretty interesting scene though. That was um, probably the second most dramatic scene because, of course, we still had Pyrrha, who was very distraught in this episode after what happened with Penny, and her tearing up and just Penny's body just lying on the ground. To be completely honest, and I thought at one point when Ruby jumped off the ship, which was a great moment because she used her ability and did like that cool little curve upward. I thought she was gonna go back to Penny's body and try to like put her back together or something, and try to do that and take her to get her to Ironwood, but it was a pretty cool scene. So I'm looking forward to seeing how all this stuff plays out. What happened with him because they show a couple of gunshots go off, and I would assume that's because he was fighting back, but I feel like he hasn't been on the show long enough for him to just die. So I don't think we have to really worry about that. He might be injured, and that might be how we get to see Winter really come into the fight. Because even in this episode, we still didn't see Winter show up, and they never mention her like going back or anything. So I would assume she's somewhere on some ship doing something, but she might come into play, and that might be what they do with Weiss's character um, in the next episode. They might actually bring back the idea of her having the constructs and stuff like that. If Winter's doing it, it might, because of just the crazy moment, it might allow Weiss to actually develop her abilities in a time of need, and we'll get to see her like make full-on constructs, which would be a great development because they did the little bit of training and she had like the little tiny blade that stayed behind. But who knows? We might get to see that in the next one. We might not. But I'm really looking forward to it. I'm very curious what's going to happen with Mercury, Emerald, and Cinder because so far they're just like filming stuff and it's like make sure you get this and don't miss what's about to happen next. And odds are the smart thing to do once a dragon comes out of a mountain is to probably stay back out of the situation. So I'm curious what they're going to try to do because obviously it's Grimm. So the Grimm, no matter what, are going to go against them, even if it's like, hey, we want to just destroy the city too. They're still just crazy animal Grimm, so they aren't really going to know that. So I am curious what they're going to do, but very fun episode. Can't wait to see the next one. Love the fact that we got 2 new Grimm. That was cool. The Griffins look pretty sweet. Of course, the dragon was super badass. I like getting to see more of the Beowulfs. We got to see a lot of different variations, I felt. There was one where you could actually see like the rib cage on the front. I don't think they've done that before, which I thought was very cool. And there was one that was, I don't know if it was technically a Beowulf or not. It looked more like a hound dog because it had like really like hound dog type ears and the ears went straight up. And I don't know if it counts as a variation on the Beowulf or if it does have a different name, but I really noticed that because the ears were so different. They weren't like wolf ears, which kind of point backwards a little bit, and they only stick up like maybe here, but those ears went like way above its head. So I was like, I don't know if that counts as something different than a Beowulf or if it's just going to be considered a variation on Beowulfs. But either way, love the designs. Can't wait to see what they do with this freaking dragon, and overall, can't wait to see how many more episodes. I hope it's, I doubt it will be finished just in this next episode because I mentioned that before. It has to at least be 3 full episodes of this before it's completed, but it might last more than that. I mean, of course, it depends on what they decide to do with it. I'd love to see this be just the whole end of the season, which I think it actually might be. With it being episode 10, we probably only have 2 more episodes left. So I'm looking forward to it. I don't know what we're going to be getting 100%, but if we really are getting our typical 13 episodes, or 12 episodes, really, I think every season's been 12, possibly 13. I think the last season was actually 14, 14 or 15. So, and I believe that's what they said they would kind of do from now on since the last volume. So we might still have like 5 episodes left or something like that. But either way, it's obvious we're like really close to the end, and then we'll have to have that little wrap-up episode to lead us into the next volume. But Can't wait to see what we get. Of course, I obviously love this episode. It was really great, of course, though. Want to know what you guys thought about it, so please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And, of course, I mentioned Adam versus Blake. That's all I care about. But I definitely want to know what fights you guys want to see, coming up in these next couple of episodes. It doesn't have to be like the very next one. I think it's obvious that I'm going to get my dream. But I want to know yours, which fights you guys really want to see, which characters you want to see in full display. Because personally, I still really want to see Sun's team. I want to see, if I do have the names right, if it was Saturn that did like the big slash with Yatsuhashi, I do want to see him fight. I like the guy's character design. I think it's really awesome. Both of them kind of remind me of Guts a little bit from Berserk. So I want to see him fight a little bit more. We saw Yatsuhashi, and they'd probably be the same a little bit. It would have to be some difference, but I'd like to see him fight. I'd love to see the team from the first episode of this volume fight some more, especially the girl that does the sort of like the whip thing. I don't know exactly what it is because she used it on Yatsuhashi to grab him, but obviously it wasn't like a Scorpion with like a kunai at the end because she grabbed him and, she was like on the swing or something. And then I believe she used that partially, at least, to kind of throw him, but that may have just been with her arm. But I'd like to see her fight some more because she's like the only person on their team that doesn't visibly have a weapon, and I just love her design. She's like the full martial arts character from that team, so I kind of want to see her fight a lot more. But definitely want to know which battles you guys want to see in these next couple of episodes, and of course what you thought about the Battle of Beacon in general. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.